One night, Dan Bilzerian was having a party at his house, and this beautiful woman, stunning, gorgeous woman in lingerie, walks up to the bartender, and she's like, "You're Dan Bilzerian's friend, right? Can you help me have sex with Dan Bilzerian?" And so the bartender texts Dan Bilzerian, and Dan Bilzerian looks up at the girl, and he texts back, "Nah, I don't want to." This dude was so famous, and he had such an insane reputation that women from all over the world who didn't even know him would just slide in his Instagram DMs and send naked pictures of themselves and ask to come to his house and have sex with him. He was also so famous that he literally got paid to party, right? Like, he would go to a club one night, and they would be like, "Ladies and gentlemen, it's Dan Bilzerian," and he would drink and flirt with women and go have sex with a bunch of them, and then the club would pay him $75,000. He also made $50 million playing poker, which is a little bit weird because if you talk to professional poker players, he isn't actually that good at poker, right? Like, they'll say, "Oh, he made all these bad plays and did all these weird things in this spot." And so how come he made $50 million playing poker? Well, it turns out it's the same secret that got him all these beautiful women in his bed, and that secret is the setup. So what the hell's the setup? Well, the setup is basically how things are set up, right? It's a combination, in Dan Bilzerian's case, it's a combination of his image, his reputation, and also all the preparation that he does. So for example, in his poker playing days, he created this image of himself as this rich trust fund baby, this spoiled kid, and everyone would invite him to their games because they like, "Oh, he's not that good a poker player, and we enjoy playing with him, he's fun." And he would fucking clean up. Same thing with the parties he threw. So he would set it up so that there were 5 or 6 beautiful women for every man that was there, and that way the women would feel like they had to compete with one another, and they would be more likely to have sex with somebody. According to Dan Bilzerian, the secret to life is having a good setup, and he talks about that in his autobiography, The Setup. The setup is basically all the stories from his life and then a few little lessons sprinkled in there, and this video is going to be about those lessons. After Dan Bilzerian left high school, he decided, "I want to be a Navy SEAL." So he enrolled in Navy SEAL training, and he did this even in spite of the fact that he had like a broken leg, but he just did Navy SEAL training anyways. He made it through Hell Week. All the doctors said, "Oh, you're never going to get through Hell Week." There was this one doctor who knew his leg was broken. He was like, "You're not going to make it through Hell Week." And he made it through Hell Week. Usually, once you make it through Hell Week, then you're Gucci, right? Like, some people will fail one of the less hard trainings after Hell Week, but you make it through Hell Week, you're probably going to graduate, you're probably going to become a Navy SEAL. Unless your instructors don't like you, in which case they're going to find some excuse to kick you out of training. And that's exactly what happened to Dan Bilzerian. He lived off base, he applied to live off base even though he wasn't supposed to, and there was a paperwork mix-up, and so he got to live off base, and he broke all the rules in every way imaginable. And so the Navy just threw the book at him and told him, "No, you can't be a Navy SEAL." So Dan Bilzerian tried again. He went back to Navy SEAL training, and he made it through Hell Week again. He made it through all the trainings, and it was the last day before he was going to graduate. His parents were coming in to see him graduate, and the instructors came up with some bullshit rules violation that he did, and told him, "Nope, you can't graduate, you're not going to be a Navy SEAL." So he enrolled in Navy SEAL training again, and then right away, right off the bat, before he had even really gotten into it, they kicked him out of the program and told him, "Hey, don't come back." And he got the message, and he didn't come back. The lesson he learned is that you don't want to play a rigged game unless you're the one rigging it. Dan Bilzerian has tons of friends in Hollywood. They're like actors and producers and stuff, and he wanted to get into acting because it was like a way to become more famous. And so he was cast in this movie where he was flirting with Cameron Diaz. And he tried to flirt with her, and he just realized he couldn't do it, right? I don't know how to flirt. I don't normally have to flirt with women to get them to sleep with me. At one of his parties, or if he's out at a nightclub, usually women go up to him and offer to have sex with him. Same goes for poker. He didn't really have a great game, but he made tons and tons of money anyways, right? Eric Seidel, one of the greatest poker players of all time, has an estimated lifetime earnings of $45 million, and that's playing since the 90s. Dan Bilzerian made $50 million playing poker. Dan Bilzerian would get smoked if he tried to play against players like Eric Seidel, but he was good at getting into games with rich people who were even worse. Both of these things come from setup, right? So Dan Bilzerian, when he was playing poker for a living, he basically pretended that he didn't play poker for a living, right? He wanted to get into the games with all the rich kids and all the people with way too much money who didn't normally invite professional poker players to their games, right? Who wants to invite a pro to fucking clean up the table? So he did everything he could to not look like he was a professional poker player. He spent money on a whole bunch of stuff. He talked constantly about his trust fund, and so everybody thought he was getting money from his trust fund. He was making his living from his trust fund. when really he was making a living from poker. Even the way that he played at the poker table was designed to make people think that he was this rich trust fund kid. He would play super aggressively, and he would show bluffs early in the game, and then people would think he was always bluffing, and then they'd call him, and he would have the nuts. And then he tried to make friends with all these super degenerate rich dudes who liked to gamble, so that when they had a poker game, he would be invited, and sometimes he could even play one-on-one with them. There was one guy who he played one-on-one with, he made like $10 million from this guy alone. He did the exact same thing with women. He realized just by crafting the right image of himself, beautiful women would throw themselves at him. One of Dan Bilzerian's big realizations is that women like men who other women like, right? Like if one woman likes you, then suddenly you'll become so much more attractive to all these other women. And so by just having beautiful women around, he would attract more beautiful women. So he would throw these big lavish parties, and he would invite tons and tons and tons of beautiful women, and then the women would see all the women that came to his party and the fact that he was hosting it, and they were like, oh my god, this guy must be so cool, I want to hook up with him. Eventually Dan Bilzerian realized that the number one thing that women are attracted to is fame, right? Like if you're famous, then women will fucking flock to you. And so he started an Instagram account and just started posting about his life and just became famous by being on Instagram and doing cool shit and posting about it. And that made him famous, and that made more women want him. It was kind of like a snowball in the sense that beautiful women would come into his life, and then more beautiful women would come into his life, and then more and more and more until it eventually got to the point where he just didn't have the stamina to actually have sex with all of them, right? Like he had to constantly take Cialis just so he could fuck all the women who wanted to fuck him. As they say in the military, planning and preparation prevents piss poor performance. A lot of people think that Dan Bilzerian is like playing this character so that he can get famous on Instagram and so that he can fuck these women. But if you actually talk to the people who know him closely, they say that he's the most like real and down-to-earth person they've ever met, right? Like he is never not his authentic self. This is another reason why he's so successful with women, and it's because, you know, women can kind of tell when a guy is being fake. They can tell when a guy is trying to impress them. So if you're just down to earth and you're being yourself and you act like you don't give a shit what people think about you, then they say, oh man, he doesn't care about me, he doesn't think that I'm that special or worth impressing, so that makes me respect him more. Like if one of his girlfriends asked him, you know, have you been having sex with other women? He'd be like, yeah, I have. In other words, by not playing other people's games and by not trying to be fake, he shows that he's above all that, and so people respect him. And you can tell this is true about him just by reading the setup, right? There are chapters where he talks about jerking off to his ex-girlfriend's pictures that she was sending him. There are chapters where he talked about getting a limp dick, right? Like, you don't talk about this stuff if you're trying to create this image. It's kind of ironic that the guy who's created the best personal brand by far of anybody in the 21st century did so by just being himself. So the lesson is, don't be fake because people won't respect you for it. Instead, be real. So anyways, thanks for watching Theo's Book Club. If you're new around here, I'm Theo. I make short videos like this one going over the big ideas in the books that I read so that you can decide, do I want to read these books for myself? If you like this video, do me a big favor, hit the like, no, it's this way. It's the like button right down there. It's on this side, right? That tells YouTube, hey, this is a good video, and we should show it to more people. I just started this channel. I think I have like 150 subscribers right now, so I would really appreciate that. You can also hit the subscribe button if you want to see more of these videos pop up in your feed. And until next time, make sure the game is rigged in your favor, and have a great day.